Hey everyone, it's Elisa Kazarowski, and I am back to share strategy number 4 of our 6 strategies for building strong connections with students. So this strategy is build them up, right? So what can we do to build up our kids? First, we can identify some of those kids that we struggle to have positive interactions with, you know the ones. And let's try to have 5 positive interactions for every 1 negative. Do what you want with those numbers, right? Don't get hung up on that 5 and 1. The idea here is that we are being cognizant of our positive versus our negative interactions with kids. I get this way sometimes with my teenager where I realize that everything is just me harping on him and nagging at him about things, right? And I get to that point where I think, ooh, I probably need to be intentional about being positive with him because he hasn't gotten a whole lot of positivity from me. That's what I'm talking about, having the awareness, okay, and then following through and doing something about that. Praising effort over outcome. For some kids, this is huge. That maybe the outcome isn't what we wanted. It wasn't a 100% on the test, but man, they put in way more effort than I've ever seen them put in before. Let's not let that go unnoticed. Fostering a growth mindset, right? Maybe we don't know all the things or do all the things or whatever yet, but we're all works in progress. We're getting there. That goes along with that praising the effort over the outcome. Embedding student choice into the classroom gives our kids a sense of autonomy in the classroom, right? A sense of ownership. So give them choice for all sorts of things that you don't care about, right? Hey guys, do you want to use pen or pencil on this assignment? Do we want to sit in our desks or do we all want to come down to the carpet? You don't care where they are or what they use to write with, or maybe you do, right? So pick different things, but give them choices and just make them, they're both choices that you can live with. But man, kids feel like, all right, we have some sense of ownership in this classroom, right? We get to make some decisions. And that is powerful. Provide them with the time and space to process their emotions. We talked about this in a previous video about helping kids normalize the idea of feelings and feeling them. So now let's give them the time and the space. How many of you watching have ever had to go hide in a pantry or a bathroom just to get away, or closet, right? Because you just needed a minute. Okay, surely I'm not the only one. So we all need that time and space sometimes, and we need to recognize that in kids and not just plow them over like, oh, well, sorry you're feeling anxious or overwhelmed or nervous or upset. Like, we don't have time for that. Okay, we have to make time for that or give them the time to work through that. Highlight their talents, their skills, their background knowledge, right? And we do that best by knowing our kids and then pulling out those little tidbits, highlighting them for something they do really well as we're teaching a lesson. We can also do this by posting their pictures, their student work, things like that around our building to highlight all the many great things that are happening in our classroom. Giving clear and timely feedback to help kids improve. They can't get better if we don't give them that feedback. And it has to be clear and it has to be timely, right? That's how we help them to grow. Positive phone calls home early in the year is huge. Okay, so quick phone call. Hey, I love having your kid in class. They've done X, Y, and Z so far, and I'm so excited to see what they do this year. Especially for those kids that you're going to be making phone calls home later in the year, or maybe even next week, and they're not going to be positive, start off on a positive note. That is helping to bridge that gap between home and school, and you're building a relationship with the parent as well. Setting high expectations for all students. Okay, so this was always a hill that I was willing to die on, okay, because we have to have high expectations for all students. We cannot make excuses for some because of the environment that they live in or because they happen to be labeled differently or with this disability or because of whatever it is. We have to hold all kids to high expectations, and that does not mean that we don't make concessions for things that are going on in their lives. We do, we absolutely do. We have empathy and we adjust things accordingly. But we are not going to say, well, you know what? Man, his home life is just a complete wreck. He's never going to do homework this year. I'm just not even going to go in having that expectation for him because I know it just can't happen. We're not doing that. We're raising the bar, not lowering the bar, and we're expecting that all kids are going to hit that. And we're going to give them the tools and the strategies and help them. We're going to build them up so that they can meet that expectation. And lastly, you might have noticed I skipped over pre-correcting and prompting because these are actually the next slides. So pre-correcting is a strategy that we use to help kids know how to approach a new task or a new situation. Okay, so let's say we are working with primary kids and they're going to have a guest speaker for the very first time. Well, kindergartners, first graders, second graders, probably even high schoolers, right, are not always the best at being active listeners, sitting quietly, facing the speaker, doing all of those things that we expect of them. So we are going to sit down and we are going to almost role play what this is going to look like. All right, I know this is the first time we've had a guest speaker. We're going to be active listeners, and we do that by sitting quietly. We're facing the speaker. We're listening with not only our ears, but our eyes and our closed mouth. Okay, you may be thinking about questions as this person is talking, and that's great. I'm excited for that. But we're going to wait until the end to ask our questions. So we're walking kids through so they know exactly what to expect in this new situation. They know how to tackle it. We're going to identify any obstacles and how they might get past those. That's pre-correcting. Now, because kids are kids, when they forget everything that you did in this role play, pre-correcting situation, and they do all the things that you ask them not to do, which they will do because they're kids, right? Then we use prompting. And prompting is a strategy that as educators, we use approximately 6 million times a day, right? Give or take a few million. That is when we say, hey, do you remember how we practice sitting quietly and facing our speaker, active listening? I need you to show me what that looks like. Hey, do you remember when did I say it would be appropriate to ask questions? Yep, at the end. Okay, put your hand down. That's prompting. We're not shaming them. We're not yelling at them. We're not saying, you need to turn around and listen and screaming. We're saying, hey, do you remember when we practiced those? What was the expectation? What does active listening look like? Can you show me right now? We practiced. Do you remember? That's prompting. Okay. These are all ways that we can help build our kids up, help them to grow. All right. That's it for strategy 4. I'll see you back here for strategy number 5.